Hello, everyone, and welcome back for another Gambit podcast. I am SoloBase15. I am here with my good friend Zareth to talk about Grand Arena and Galactic Legends. Zareth, how are you tonight?
I'm doing well tonight, Solo. How are you?
I'm doing well, thank you. I'm very glad I got my gas about a year ago, because I'm watching people try and not have fun.
Dude, I think that was the thing that I hated most about making an alt. Like, I've enjoyed my alt for the most part. Um, I I loathed unlocking General Skywalker.
Yeah,
That event, it's actually not. I like the puzzle aspect of it. The first time I did it, I actually had a lot of fun because I solved it myself. Like, I didn't rely on anyone else's guides to do it for me. I enjoyed it. The second time though, I was like, this is boring. This sucks. I don't have as good of mods available, or characters, or gear. I'm
yeah.
not gonna spend money. And there was actually a time I could have unlocked it one weekend, but it was on a weekend, and I was like on a mini vacation. I was like, well, I guess I won't unlock it this weekend. Like this time, I'll wait another 3 months. So
Yeah,
I'm really quiet.
I fixed it. It's
Very good.
I had to keep you quiet during the last stream because of the music. Uh, not until yes, yes, Bodhi, evil sucks. Uh,
Mm.
I think that goes without saying most of the time.
I'm legally obligated to disagree with that.
uh, okay, so the cast made me hate the game for a year. Yeah, isn't that the truth? Let me tell you. My biggest problem with this gas event is so I've now watched, let's see, I watched Infinitum for about 14 hours today. No joke, he spent about 14 hours trying to unlock gas. And now I've been watching Fortmore for 8 hours. I still have it on without sound so I can cheer when he actually gets gas.
Oh yeah, I need to have him in the background too, so
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
can get the Imperial credits, so he makes me a thing.
Yeah. I've seen so much bad advice, like so much bad advice coming through in the chats for the two of them. Um, and I don't mean bad advice in like, oh, you should target so and so first. I mean in just like, no, don't relic Asajj or B2. Relic Droidica. It's like, oh, it's not that Droidica relic is awful, but when you are a Division 2 account, a Relic 4 Droidica is going to be your matchmaking GP. Relic 4 with a Zeta in Division 2 basically means it's like a top 20 tune. And Droidica is not a top 20 tune. Ever.
No, not remotely. Not
Yeah.
top 20. Gosh, like maybe in weird circumstances top 50.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, top 20. There's no way. Yeah, dude. It's just not good. I don't even know what to say
It's
other
not.
than that.
It's like Mort has, I think, a total of 11 relics or something absurd like that. 3 of them are on his Droidica. Poor Mort.
Oh, more put them on Droidica. Jeez.
He did it before the event even started, yeah. And now everyone's telling him to make the Droidica the slowest on the battlefield and stuff. And it's like, guys, I finished this event in an hour on both accounts. It wasn't with a super slow Droidica with a crit damage set of anything.
What? Okay.
Yeah, yeah. That's the advice his chat is giving.
Well, to be fair, I mean, and it's online, and anyone can give advice.
Right.
That's the thing about online stuff. You never know how good people are either, like how credible they are.
Right. Right. Everybody's done it a different way, and it's like I did it with I think a total of 4 or 5 relics. I think it was like an R3 Asajj and R2 B1, and just make Droidica go first and like cruise through the event after 5 or 6 attempts. But oh well. So if you're listening to this podcast tomorrow and you're about to do the gas event, don't just relic Droidica, please. unless you're like Zareth and have 400 relics, a relic droidica can hurt you when it comes to Grand Arena.
Do I have more relics than you? Or
No,
are you just throwing me under the bus?
I honestly don't think you do. You have a relic droidica and I do not.
I do.
That's why I chose you in that example.
That's fair.
Yeah.
I mean, I will say this. Like I have a relic droidica, but it just goes with our overarching theme. Honestly, is like have a plan. My droidica is relict because I wanted to. He was there as a counter to one of the Galactic Legends. They have since fixed the Galactic Legend thing that the droidica was part of. So now I'm stuck with the Relic 6 droidica, and people are like, who even keeps their characters at Relic 6? Like, just push him to 7. And I'm like, no. I'm already angry enough that I have a Relic 6 droidica for nothing. I mean, I don't necessarily regret it, but would he be a Relic 6 or 7 compared to a lot of my other characters? Like,
Right.
there's a ton of other characters I'd rather have a Relic 6 or 7. Like droidica, and we were talking about this right before we got on, actually. Droidica is just too easily controlled on like on the teams that he's on. Like when I see a General Grievous squad with droidica, I'm like, yes, oh, so good, I'm so happy. Or on a Newt team, like yeah, he can be scary, but even if you take just Jedi Training Rey, you're just good. You can control him. So
Oh yeah, it's Jedi Training Rey Geos against that new team, and Droidica just never takes a turn. Like you can have an R7 Droidica that is the highest offense in the world, and it's just not taking a turn.
right.
And you put Droidica on the General Grievous team, and you just make EP and Sith trio basically beat it easily as well. So Droidica, not the best out there. Okay, we've talked about the gas event. Let's actually talk about Grand Arena because that's why we are here.
Sure.
And actually, before we talk about Grand Arena, let's talk about the giant characters that are going to make a huge stink in Grand Arena in about a month. So the news of the week is that CG has released the second set of requirements for Jedi Luke and Sith whatever Palpatine. And they require a lot of relics. A lot of relics. You know,
buttload, yeah.
Yeah, you look back at the Rey and the Supreme Leader Kylo relics, and they were like, okay, you need 2 of them at R7 for each character, and then it's nothing's going to be above R5. And this set of requirements comes out, and it's 7, 7, 6, 6. It's like, oh god,
obnoxious AF.
My poor stash. It's quite sad.
Yeah.
Seeks. Sickus.
Yes. Oh dear Lord. Yeah, that was a funny video.
Yeah.
No, there are a lot of requirements, but I don't know how to feel about it. So I have most of them already done. So like on my main, I'm just like good. And actually even on my alt, I'm surprisingly close. Like my alt, this is all for Grump Face Luke. But we have for that Galactic Legend, like the new requirements for that, we have the Rebel Y-Wing at 6 stars, which I already have on my main. My alt is close. R2-D2, Relic 7, Han Solo at Relic 6, Chewie at Relic 6, and Jedi Knight Luke Skywalker at Relic 7. And I already had the 4 characters at high relics. Like R2-D2 needs a few steps, but otherwise, like, I'm good. And my alt is even like pretty close. Like I need more relics, obviously, but like my alt could conceivably get this Luke, except for Jedi Knight Luke, which I'm pretty far away from because of GET1 issues.
Right. Yeah. I well, my main account, kind of like you, I haven't applied any of the additional relics, but I have every single character except for Chupio and Mon Mothma already relicked. So I just farmed the relic mats, and basically the day I can start farming tickets, I'll just apply all the relics then to not mess with my matchmaking. But I already have most of these requirements, and he honestly feels like a gift for the older players. Now, I know younger players are never going to be able to get this Galactic Legend because of the exact reason I said that Jedi Luke wasn't going to be in the event, and I was wrong. But there's just, there's so many characters that need GET1, and if you're a younger player, you would have been going for Gas. You would have been going for Malik. Um, Wampa is nice, Hoda is nice, but those people are going to be going for Gas and Malik because obviously they make the biggest difference, and so they're never going to get Jedi Luke. And so it's funny that at the higher divisions, I think you see Galactic Legend Luke pop up almost immediately for a lot of people at our GP level. And then for you go below like 4.5 million, so you go Division 2 down, I think you see all Palps, which is going to be fun to see.
It's going to be really interesting, actually. I don't know what's going to happen on, like, we still have one more week of requirements, so
Yeah.
maybe like these Galactic Legends. So there's two really interesting like points here. Like I think, so first off, I think that this is just my speculation, so there's no official word or anything. My guess, so with Jedi Luke being required, like you and I have discussed this at length, and honestly, I was thinking like probably Solo's right. Like I thought that it could go either way, and the fact is we do have Jedi Luke on the list of requirements now, and if Sith Eternal Emperor is going to be on par, like Jedi Luke requires like 50 characters total after you count all the different characters that are required to unlock, or Jedi Master Luke requires like 50 characters. It's like not only do you need, like the Han Solo and Chewie and all that, but well, like Chewie, you need 5 bounty hunters, and Jedi Luke, you need I don't remember how many, 7 or 8, something like that. Anyways, there's
13 characters for Jedi Luke.
13.
Yeah.
Tons. We need a ton.
Yeah.
And so all together, all told, like 3PO, we need Ewoks, all that. We need like 50, I think, is what the latest count was. If Sith Eternal Emperor is going to be on par for that, I think Malak is going to be needed as a requirement. I'm not saying I advocate for that.
Yeah.
That's good or whatever. But I feel like that is almost inevitable. Maybe that's too strong of a word, but it seems a little bit like, what else are they going to do to make them equal? Because Malak does require a bunch of characters at least.
Right. So I agree. Once I saw the requirements for Jedi Knight Luke, I was like, yeah, it's got to be Malak, right? But I will say, what says that they have to be equal? Like, look at the difference between JTR's requirements and Kylo's requirements. Supreme Leader Kylo is much easier. I mean, there's no legendaries on the Supreme Leader Kylo event, while there's 2 of them on the Rey event. So it doesn't have to be even. That said, I think it's going to be Malak. But I don't think it has to be.
Right. Exactly. Like it's not preordained. Like it seems like to me, if they're going to try to do it equally, which usually they try to get at least a little semblance of equality.
Yeah.
And because to be fair, like Malak is much more approachable to newer players, but he's still not like easy. Like my alt still doesn't have Malak, which that's just me not wanting to gear up Zalbar, frankly. But and
Yeah.
and it's fun to have that, I don't know, pretension almost of like, I don't even have Malik and I'm still top 10. Yeah.
Oh, take that, guys. um, yeah. So I'm very interested to see what the actual requirements are going to be. Here's the problem, and this is honestly my biggest problem at the moment. It's my alt account where. So when they first announced this, I said I'm not going to make the same mistake that I made with the first Galactic Legends, because I went for Ray first on both Galactic Legends, and then they buffed Kylo twice, and I sat there literally fuming. That on both accounts I went for Ray. So I said, okay, I'm going to pick one to go on one account, one to go on the other account, and I'll split it up. And that way, if one's better than the other, at least I have it on one account. Of course, then the second set of requirements comes out, and I have all four of the requirements relicked for Luke on my alt account. I was like, I'm so much closer to Luke. Now, what do I do? Do I still try and split it up? So I'm stuck just hoarding gear right now because I want to see what the final requirements are. I don't think that they're going to be that bad for Luke, and so I think I'm going to get stuck going for the same one on both accounts all over again, which is hopefully is okay, because I'll be honest, I'm not happy I have Ray on my alt account right now. I would have preferred Supreme Leader Kylo.
Yeah. Well, yeah, dude, it's a very strange situation, honestly. Like, so we're end game players, and so we're just gonna chase, like we'll end up getting both Galactic Legends. We got Luke, we got all this stuff. I think the bigger impact though are the accounts that don't spend as much or aren't as on top of things. The more, I don't know, the filthy casual accounts, but like the newer accounts, really the
Yeah.
mid-range accounts, that like we're gonna get ours, and it's like, oh, it's interesting, I guess. Like, which one should we go for? We're kind of, we're both more prepared for Luke right now, I guess, but we'll get the other one eventually, and that'll be that kind of. It'll be hell if for other reasons, like Grand Arena is gonna be stupid, but
Right.
um
Oh god, and let's not talk about territory wars. Not that we talk about that anymore, but every
I
single
wasn't planning on that.
every single territory war is going to be literally 200 Galactic Legends sitting on defense, and it's like, go clear us. You only have 1 watt.
Yeah, I know, it's so stupid, but
Yeah.
anyways, I think that the more interesting thing is like, what are mid-range accounts? What decision making are they going to be making? Because right now, so my alt, I was telling you I don't have Malik. I'm not particularly close to getting Malik either, honestly. I'm especially not close to unlocking either Galactic Legend.
Yeah.
Like, I honestly think maybe I would be better off just going for Grumpface first.
You might be. Like, honestly, you might be. And we'll find out in probably. I think when they released the last requirements, didn't they release the kits as well? Or at least close to each other? Um,
Yeah, let's see.
I probably could have gone back and looked this up, but I think they're announced really close together, if not on the same day, and so that'll be the perfect kind of let you know for your account.
Yeah. Yeah. It's just gonna be, the landscape is gonna change so much too, because Galactic Legends are clearly going to dominate the scene.
Yes. Yeah.
I just have to wonder what their plans are for more Galactic Legends. Like, they already said that they were going to do more than one set, but we don't know how soon they're going to start moving away from the Galactic Legend model. And when they do, I'm concerned about Grand Arena, frankly. Like, right now, it's already dominated by Galactic Legends. The first question I ever ask when I'm about to be paired up with someone is, how many Galactic Legends do they have, and what do they do with them?
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Uh,
right now there's only 2, so there's 5 other teams that have to be used, so therefore there are 10 other teams that are relevant. That's going to be cut down by another 4. There's going to suddenly just be 6 other teams that are relevant to Galactic Legends or beyond Galactic Legends.
that's yes, yeah. You know, I don't know the answer to that, but like we'll talk about your round. Actually, both of our rounds in a little bit, but both of our opponents would have stuck if they had 4 Galactic Legends, all 4 Galactic Legends on defense. Like, there's not a doubt in my mind. And the problem is there's only going to be so many counters to these Galactic Legends. Like, we already have Jedi Knight Luke is required to counter Supreme Leader Kylo. Oh, not, I mean, there's other counters, but realistically, you're going to need Watt to counter Rey. So, what do you do for the other 2 Galactic Legends? Because Watt, Thrawn, and Jedi Knight Luke are used for 2 of them. Just what characters are left to counter the other 2?
Well, yeah. So I was going over it with maybe it wasn't you. It was someone we were talking about. So right now, as things currently stand, we have like 3 main teams that are off meta counters to Galactic Legends. So we have Darth Vader, we have like Darth Revan, and Jedi Luke. Like like variants of those, but those are the 3 main like archetypes of off meta counters. And so you can kind of mix and match. Like Darth Revan actually can do both under the right circumstances, and struggles against both under the wrong circumstances. And then Darth Vader can kill both under the right circumstances, but mostly it's good against Rey. And Jedi Knight Luke can counter both, but for the most part, it's good against Kylo. So right now we kind of have like this interesting, you have a lot of options really. And then you have the cheese teams that can work against various things. So there's some counters out there, but right now, if we wanted to clear all 4 Galactic Legends, like assuming that same things kind of work, because really those are all like the good characters available, honestly.
Yeah.
Unless like suddenly like a Commander Luke team, which I could see, but like a Commander Luke team might end up being, a counter or something, unless new counters are discovered. Like we're going to end up, once we get to the very end of all of this madness, we'll end up having to keep at least 1 Galactic Legend for offense if we want to be sure of a clear.
Yeah. I think that's fairly safe to say. At least 1. I honestly think at some point, once everybody has 4, or at least everybody that we're facing has 4, you're going to have to keep 2 on offense. For the guaranteed clear. Because if somebody puts down 4, you need your 2 Galactic Legends to take out 2 Galactic Legends, and then you'll use your Jedi Knight Luke and your Darth Revan or Vader squad to take out the other. The good news is, as much as we only have 1 Watt and 1 Thrawn to counter our Galactic Legends, our opponent's only going to have 1 Malak to stop any Sith counter to Galactic Legends. So at least there's that.
True. Well, and so here's the thing though. Someone in chat just said it like, there's, not to be contrarian, but it sounds like balance is here. Like I think I'm okay with it. I'm concerned moving into it, but I think we'll be okay. We're gonna have to change the way we think about things. Mm-hmm. Like I've been really enjoying using my off meta counters. It makes my matches more exciting for me and the people who watch them. I think, not to be presumptuous, but I mean, I think that they're more interesting to me, at least. That's what I want to see. And so it's going to be interesting. I think the other aspect is, so I don't know if we even not talked about it on our cast yet, but there's a really, I don't know if you'd call it subtle, or there's an indication that things are going to change soon on the Galactic, or on the Grand Arena side of things. So if you look at the forums with the calendar, with the calendar posts. Let me see if I can just find it real quick, just so I can actually read it instead of. So I'm looking at the event calendar for September, and what they're doing is, so Grand Arena is already scheduled. The next Grand Arena week is already scheduled. Week 1 starts. The preview phase is on September 28th, and then it says type, and it's going to be 5v5 plus 1 fleet. And so, like, they bothered to say that it's going to have a fleet,
Right?
Not just like plus fleet. It's 5v5 plus 1 fleet, which means to me that the possibility exists not for just a 0 fleet, but much more likely there's going to be a 2 fleet. And we've talked about that a lot before, but I think what's going alongside that is the Galactic Legends are going to be shipped out, whatever. And in my guess is that they're going to change Grand Arena once the Galactic Legends are released, or maybe soon thereafter, to not only include more fleets, but also we're going to have to include more. They're going to give us more squads to mess around with in Grand Arena.
Well, to be honest with you, in Division 1, they pretty much should. I mean, you and I both set absurd defenses. Then we do our attacks. And how many times this season have you looked at what you have left on the bench and been like, man, I still have like 3 strong teams that just didn't get used here. So I know I don't think they should add any teams for obviously like Division 2 or Division 3 or even the low end of Division 1. You know, when you're in that 4.5 to 5 million and you're still going to have a lot of G11s sitting there on your either offense or defense when you're at that point. But I think they need to do something for all of us that are above 6 million GP or even 6.5 million GP, because it's almost like an embarrassment of riches at this point.
It truly is, man. And that's kind of the phrase I use a lot. Not to call you out for stealing my phrase, but like, you're right. I have actually felt like my match last night, I actually used almost every relevant character, and I was like, well, that was fun and rare. And then I was like, I just made myself sad that I called that rare. You know? Like it is. It's just and plus, no offense to Bus 72 or whatever.
Yeah.
Bus 70 something. Yeah, like no offense to him at all by this, but like, we don't play the same game. I shouldn't be on the same leaderboard. I just shouldn't. Like, the things I have to do compared to the things he has to do, it's similar. Like, I would use my alt to face him. I'd probably lose because he does have more GP than me. He probably has a more efficient roster, if we're being honest. I'm not saying he's a bad player by any stretch, but like, he's much closer to where my alt is than my main. Like, my main is just it's so different. Like, last night everyone was like, don't forget the feat last night I faced one of the most heinously obnoxious absurd defenses I've ever faced, and people are like, don't forget the feat where you have to use like Kanan and Ezra and old Ben all in the same squad. And I'm like, that's not gonna happen. I don't have an option. I won't win if you do that.
Yeah, I haven't been able to get those types of feats for months, just because when you're facing G13 on every defense team, and it's usually not like this just junky defense team like Phoenix or something, you just can't take up 3 spots on your team to use or to achieve that feat.
No, like, sometimes you'll get lucky and you're like, oh, my opponent thought I couldn't get through their zone, so they put Tuscans in the back.
Right.
And they're all gear 1, and you're like, okay, I'll throw in like Commander Luke and Han and just some random hodgepodge.
Yeah.
Or we'll just clear it with hodgepodge at that level. But like, Yeah, it's
I
such a different thing.
yeah. I have an R4 Ezra, I have an R3 Old Ben, and I couldn't get the feat because I needed Old Ben to counter Supreme Leader Kylo. I was a little disappointed about that because I just got Ezra to R4 a week ago, and I was like, oh, I get to use him. I get to use him. I was planning on using my Jedi. I was planning on splitting my Jedi up and getting to use a Jedi Knight Luke team, and then no, I couldn't. Unfortunately.
I love that people are defending Phoenix in the chat right now.
Oh, poor Phoenix.
I dude, I just really want him to get reworked, or I want him to add something that makes him relevant. I just do. I don't know.
I don't.
That we can just move away from that topic. They are perversely difficult to gear, and I feel like I've earned it. But my entitled attitude aside, we should probably leave that.
Yeah.
Anyways, it's going to be an interesting thing. Galactic Legends, they're not going away. They're going to change things. We're going to get new zones. We're going to get new stuff. And we'll continue talking about it. But for now, why don't we talk about there was a couple just random things we wanted to discuss. So just while we're on the topic of the requirements for Galactic Legends, so R2D2 is required at Relic 7. And I saw a conversation with someone saying, they were like, oh, well, this is great. I feel vindicated that I for a Galactic Challenge, I relicked up my R2D2 just for a Galactic Challenge to up to like Relic 5. And they're like, and so now like they're saying like retroactively it was a great decision on my end. And there's this fallacy, and I don't remember what it's called, but it, like in poker, I used to play poker pretty seriously, and so you put here's the thing, like poker has a huge element of luck in it, just because that way a player who isn't good could still go head to head with the best player in the world and still conceivably win. Like if they play them long term, they're not going to win. They'll take all their money from them because the good players are making good decisions. They're making plus EV decisions, and the whole time you're people say like, oh man, I'm so glad I folded, like because my cards didn't come out, so it was a good decision because the cards I had didn't come out that I would have needed to win. And the fact is, sometimes it's like, okay, so you would have had a bad result, but it doesn't make it a good decision. Like if you have the right odds, you need to put the money in, and you need to play it. You need to make the right decision, not a results oriented decision. You need to make a decision that's going to have additional expected value. And so to me, like, I don't know, people saying, oh, I'm so glad, like people, I relicked up my R2D2, for the Galactic Challenges, which I think is a poor decision, because you're not getting anything extra really. And now it's totally different anyways, but Galactic Challenges did require it. Just because it was a just because it worked out for you in the end doesn't mean it's a good decision. It's like the people who have Relic 7 Tuscans, like maybe it's a good decision in terms of like it brings you personal enjoyment, but in terms of like gameplay, you're just hindering yourself by doing that, by spending your resources on it. If eventually we do get a Tuscan event where we need Relic 7 Tuscans, it doesn't mean that you were making good decisions prior to that. It means you got lucky.
Right.
So, anyways,
I've got the perfect example of this for you because it just came up in our. So your alt guild, my mains guild. We're in the Ewokin Alliance, and there's this officer in one of our casual guilds, and so the PALP requirements came out, and he posted, and he's like, I've already got 5 of these requirements at R7. Now, this guy has a 4.8 million GP roster, and he's like, I'm already almost there, and he has every Sith requirement already at R5. And so you look at his roster, and he doesn't have a single neon blue character. He doesn't have a single relict light side character. And all this guy did was he relicked up and at least R5'd every single Sith on his roster. Like, that's all he has relicked, basically. And he's like, man, I made such a good decision. It's like, no, you didn't. Your guild is literally doing light side Geo, and you can't complete a single wave just because you're closer to a galactic legend does not make it a good decision. Like, it just does not.
Right, and that's the thing. Like, all I'm saying is, don't fall into that fallacy of just like, oh, well, I'm gonna gear this guy just in case. There's no actually real reason for it other than I just like feel like it or something.
Mm-hmm.
Like, to me, it's just make good decisions based on the information you have and move on. Like, there were regrets. There are always going to be regrets, and we'll talk about that later in our podcast question segment. But like, I see people making these decisions and then justifying them in the past.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I don't mean to. I know that sometimes I can come off as like superior, like, well, you guys suck, I'm better than you. I don't mean it in any superior way. We need to make good decisions based on what you have, and eventually, like, that's going to produce good results. Whether or not it ends up happening or not, it doesn't matter. Like, make good decisions and good things will follow. So,
yes. Yeah. Yes. Fantastic way to sum that up. Now, there's one other thing that I wanted to talk about, and it just fell out of my head again. Good Lord. It's been a busy couple weeks, and I can't remember anything. Oh, well. Maybe it'll come back. Oh, wait. There it is. It came back.
There we go. I knew that if I said something about moving on, that the obstinate part of your brain would kick in.
Yeah.
And you'd be able to, you'd be like, oh, wait, no, I don't want to do what Zareth says. I'm going to remember that.
That's honestly exactly what happened there. So one of the things I find interesting, and you talked about how CG has said that they want to release more Galactic Legends, and if these Galactic Legends are truly on the same power as the current Galactic Legends, and then they use the Legendaries or Hero Journeys characters to move the meta, kind of like they did with Jedi Knight Luke, I'm all for having a different Galactic Legend for each faction, as long as it's the Legendaries that are going to kind of push you one way or the other. The one thing that this is going to do, though, if they truly do start releasing Galactic Legends for every faction, is imagine how hard every Legendary is going to be to get. Because, like right now, Luke takes, 40 or 50 characters to get Grump-faced Luke. There's only like 200 characters in the game. Right. What are they going to require for Legendaries once people are forced to relic up basically every faction?
And that's a great question. I don't know. I've been thinking about that, actually. So that they've been requiring so many characters lately for all these different unlocks. We're pretty quickly running out of characters, like of corners of the game that haven't been geared or explored. Yes, right. There's still a lot of bad characters, but
yeah, and it's so I think part of the problem was, what was it? 2018, we had this character explosion. And I think they released 32 to 35 characters in 2018.
It was like an ocean of characters, you might say.
And you might. So last year, they had a huge slowdown on the number of characters they released because a lot of people were saying, we're burnt out with all these new characters. Like, we can't take it. this year I think is kind of a balance between the two. I've actually been happy with the character release this year, but last year means that there's this kind of gulf in characters that need to be farmed or geared because there just weren't that many released. And so, like you said, they're running out of corners, or factions to gear, and it's because they had this entire year that I think 10 to 12 characters were released, and I think 5 of them were like legendary or heroic journey or something. So it's almost like they're pushing 2018 that burnt people out for 2019 is now going to cause them a problem in 2021 because what other characters are there? And you can only go to the well of you need to gear Jawas for the next legendary, or you need to gear Tuskens for the next legendary so many times before people say, I don't want Relic 7 Jawas or Tuskens. Like, I'm just not going to do it, and stop. So I'm really curious to see how this all kind of plays out next year, because I'll be honest, I want more Galactic Legends. If they truly are equal, I kind of like the chase at this point because, like you said, we're endgame players. My alt is 6.3 million. Like, it's free to play, but it's still endgame. I kind of like the chase. But I don't know how they're gonna. I don't know how they're gonna be able to do this all because they're going to run out of characters if your Galactic Legends taking 50 characters to unlock.
Right. Well, yeah. Unless they start doing the galaxy of marquees or whatever people in the chat are reminiscing about. Yeah. I actually liked the marquee, the wave of the ocean of new characters released. To me, I know that this is a little contrary to what other people in the game see it as, but to me, new content is a new character release. That's, in my opinion, what it is. Because right now it's down to the point of like, yeah, sure, a couple random PvE things are fun, but it's all about Grand Arena, and so a new character release is going to change the landscape, and it gets me all excited about it. So
Yeah, yeah.
An entire ocean of new characters. When they said that in that Q&A, like at the start of the year, they're like, we're going to release an ocean of new characters. I was like, yes. And it's shifted a little bit to, we're going to release an ocean of new characters that you have to gear that already existed.
I think, well, if you count ships, which I know I tried to ignore, if you count ships, I think they've been doing decently at releasing new characters. It's better than last year. My problem with the year of the marquees, which was 2018, is I love the marquee events. I think it's great that I can gear them up at 3 stars so that when I do unlock them, it's not a rush to gear them, it's just a rush to get them to gear 12, which is I usually am able to save up the pieces by then. My problem with the year of marquees was it was also the year of the legendary event and the year of the panic farm, and there's just only so much farming that you can do when they've released 35. So I went into the C-3PO event without Wicket. I went into the Bounty Hunter event without Bosk, just because, well, on the Bosk one, I gambled, and they released the Solo faction, so I thought Solo was going to be needed for a legendary. It turned out the Bounty Hunters that were released needed to be, or were for the legendary. I couldn't keep up, and I like to keep up with marquees, and so a little slower makes me happy. But I love marquees. I think they're great, especially when you compare them to the first year and a half of this game. And I know you started later than me, but where it was literally impossible to get certain characters without dropping hundreds of dollars. And so they came out with this marquee, and it was like this giant thing that was just amazing. It's what made this game free to play. Honestly, is the marquee character, because you could start, or the cadence, I should say, because you could start farming any character you wanted. It might take you 3 months, but you could start farming that character as soon as it becomes free to play farmable, as opposed to I need to go buy like 50 of these special chromium cards to unlock Wedge or Rex, and be damned if I don't get it to 7 stars with $200. So I love the marquee. The problem is a lot of people are now playing the game that didn't live in that time, and they're like, the marquee events are just trying to get my money, and it's like, no, 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 people. The marquee events are what makes this game free to play. You're not putting this together.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I remember people were like, "This is amazing. No other game does this." Like, I've heard that Marvel Strike Force, in fact, is still like there's certain characters that are just completely pay to play. You can't actually unlock them without spending actual dollars or whatever currency, but like actual non in-game currency that you can earn. So to me, like I do love that this game can be free to play. Yeah, that's what's
Yeah.
kept me in this game for as long as it has.
Right.
Um,
Yeah.
and I'll say this. So we were going to talk about this a little bit, and we were probably past enough time that we probably can't talk about it at length. But we were going to talk about farming characters versus farming gear. And so you had the problem with farming the marquees. Like I didn't really. Like I have always had this mentality of farm all the characters first, and if there's extra, then farm gear if you can. But like that, like I haven't farmed gear on my alt, for instance, ever. At any point, I have never ever farmed gear. And yes, that makes it slower to gear characters, but at the same time, like I'm ready to gear characters because or at least I'm ready to like get squads ready if they come around. Like you can get characters in or you can get gear in shops, you can get it from other things. In my opinion, whenever a new thing comes out, I drop everything and just start farming that character till it's gone. I'm doing double refreshes, which means 15 attempts on every node right now of characters I don't have. How many refreshes are you doing right now, Solo? Just out of curiosity.
I do double. I do double refreshes for everyone, but I limit myself to two of each type of two farms of each type of energy. So I'll never do more than 2 fleet farms. I'll never do more than 2 um, regular energy farms. Of course, I say that, and right now, because of this stupid Luke event, I'm so close to finishing Cara Dune that I've made an exception, and I'm now farming 3 characters on regular energy just because Kara's I think she's at 80 out of 100, and if I ignore her for a month when she's only 20 shards away, the OCD will kill me. So normally it's never more than 2 characters at a time on each energy source, but I'm making a small exception to finish Cara Dune.
That's fair. I'm yeah, I just my alt, I have the characters I'm farming on my alt right now are on the dark side. I'm doing Cara Dune and TIE Bomber. Those are the only ones I really need right now. And then on light side, I'm doing Resistance Pilot, Resistance Hero, or sorry, Resistance Trooper, Resistance Hero Poe, Resistance Hero Finn, Y-Wing, and the Scion / Kylo Ren unmasked shuttle, and Chupio. So I barely have enough energy to do all of those every day.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
and anyways, I tend to just like to get those farms over because then we don't have to worry about shards. It's just worrying about gear, which is frustrating at times. The gear crunch is real. But...
Right. Yeah, and part of the problem is my alt is end game, and if I want to keep up with my arena shard to then pay for my farms, I need
Right.
I need the gear. I need the gear. Because I'm not paying for it 'cause my alt is free to play. So, you know,
Fair.
yeah.
Right. Well, yeah, and that's totally fine. I just, yeah, I tend to be farm first, farm characters first, and then if you have time for gear, that's great. But um, you don't have to play it that way. I do. I will say that you breaking yourself on that unlocking Chewy event because you didn't have Bosk. Like I had Bosk, I unlocked him, and I took 3 attempts on the final tier, and I
Yeah.
just unlocked him, and I was like, oh, that was easy. And then you spent, I think it was like the last night you needed to get it done,
Yep.
and
Yep.
I was just like, why didn't you farm Bosk? But
Well, that answer was because I was farming the solo tunes, expecting a legendary from that.
well, and I was farming them too. But like I
Yeah.
said, we spend our focus a little differently, which is totally
Right.
fine.
Yeah.
Oh, so one last thing before we jump into Grand Arena. One thing that I've noticed, I think you've noticed it too, Solo.
Yep.
I wanted to shout it out though, so everyone can notice. Chupio is a meta altering character. He
Yes.
has changed the landscape, and I don't think anyone's noticed it yet. But even at Gear 8 on a Commander Luke team, he is helping Commander Luke just totally destroy and demolish other teams. I see him on Akbar teams holding the line. Like you see someone who's like foolishly relicked Akbar up to relic 4 or something. Or maybe it's not foolish because maybe they like their rebel fleet a lot, and there's actually a lot of good things to be said about the rebel fleet if you've invested in it. But one way or another, you see people with relic 4 Akbar, and then you have Chupio in there, and it's like, how did you hold your Chupio's only gear like 9 or 10? But man, he gets such a big boost because he gets 40% of his leader's stats.
Yeah.
If it's a relic leader, it's good. And then he's just hitting every single shot. And then he has a revive mechanic. It's truly insane. So
Yeah.
just fair warning, guys, that Chupio is a thing, even if we haven't seen the widespread abuse of it. It's coming. I'm already seeing it in Territory Wars.
Yes. And just so you know, since this is a Grand Arena focused podcast, while Padme is a typical counter to CLS, Padme will likely lose against a team with Chupio.
Yep.
So be forewarned.
She will just time out.
Yes, because you are feeding a ton of turn meter to the rebels with Padme, with the protection up from Padme, making them resist the debuffs. And Chupio adds so many debuffs to that team that you're just going to time out. Yeah. So be warned. We have told you. All right. So next up, let's talk about our actual weeks in Grand Arena. So, Zareth, how did you do? How'd you do in your first match in Grand Arena this week?
Well, let's see. So I faced a guy who I thought his name was pretty dumb, but it turns out it's from a fantasy book or fantasy series, which doesn't mean the name isn't dumb, but it's a little more understandable that you would do that. So let's see. Prior to this match this season, I had always kept my double Galactic Legends on defense because I've been reveling in my off meta counters. It's a lot of fun. I suggest people do it if they can. But he had a strange Ray team where he had Malik and Jedi Training Ray, and Jedi Training Ray does some strange things to a Ray composition. Like she just does, like the way she interacts with things, she gets so much turn meter against like Vader comps, especially because of all the debuffs. And I'm not going to go super into it, but like it changes things, and then Malik changes things as well, changes turn meter and order of things. And so it was a weird enough comp that I didn't have time that day to play test anything. So I just took Supreme Leader Kylo, Like his history showed that he took this team every time, and this was no exception. So I took Kylo. I actually put my new Relic 5 Chupio squad in Kylo's place, and so I took it. I got 47 banners against that, and then everything else he had was pretty bad. He just had that one weird Ray team, and he actually had pretty good banners. I think people have just, I think that another fallacy people have, and I won't go at length on this, but people tend to say, like, if I have a Galactic Legend, then I can just put crap in the rest of my slots. Like I can just lean on that one team to save me. And I'll just say this, like it doesn't save you.
No, it
that
doesn't.
alone, that doesn't save you. So so I got a 47, which is bad banners, right? Like that's almost the worst. 46 is the worst you can get. 47, that's typical for using Kylo versus Rey. So got 47, and I got good enough banners that I ended up with 1922 for the rest of the match, like almost perfect after that. And he saved so much for offense. He ended up clearing me. I didn't have both of my Galactic Legends on defense either, so he cleared me. He did fail once. Even if he didn't fail, I would have beat him by 12. As it was, I beat him by 32 because he failed against Darth Revan, and that was that. Like, done and done. So happy enough to get that win, especially after I had lost in my previous match. How did you do, Solo?
So every match this week, I faced somebody with lifetime banners that were close to me or better. So in theory, I'm going up against a bunch of good players, or at least they've had pretty good success coming into this week. So my first week, I went up against a guy that he always put, quote unquote, 3 meta teams on defense. Now those meta teams would rotate. He would always put Rey on defense. He would always put General Grievous on defense. Then sometimes it was Padme as the third. Sometimes it was Darth Revan. Sometimes it was CLS. But he always had one extra meta team other than Rey or Grievous. And so that means he keeps a lot for offense. Which he shouldn't go around telling anybody, because I kept him from clearing all but the front and bottom zone. Actually, what happened was, he lost once to my Supreme Leader Kylo that was front and bottom. Then he beat my Grievous to get to the back zone. I trapped him because I knew he likes to use the gas Chewie Han 5's 3PO counter to Supreme Leader Kylo. So I stuck Kylo in the front. I had him use that. I have a faster Darth Revan, so I put Darth Revan in the back. He didn't have his gas to use. He lost to Darth Revan. I'm willing to bet he lost to Darth Revan with his Darth Revan. We'll have to wait till tomorrow to see the Grand Arena history. And then there was no way for him to beat Darth Revan, so he just kind of gave up there. Didn't even try the top zone. And meanwhile, he put a fairly light defense with only 3 meta teams. So I mirrored the Rey match, just I used Watt to make my Rey even faster than his, and I killed it for pretty good banners too. I was able to break out my troopers this round because he places a Phasma team down, and then I just kind of cruised through the rest of his teams, and I got the full clear. So week 1, I think he had 10,000 more lifetime banners than me, and it was one of my easier wins this season. So that was our not week 1, round 1. That was our first fight. How'd you do on the second round, or second fight of this round?
All right, so we're both in the semifinals. Excellent.
Yes.
And so this guy religiously places both Galactic Legends on the front bottom zone. That's his thing. Like, he always just places it. Win or lose, that's just what he does. He had pretty good lifetime banners, and that strategy does work against people who don't have anything developed to beat it, and he's a fairly efficient player as well. That said, I placed both of my Galactic Legends, and I mean, man, we say it every time. We say it 1,000 times every podcast. Have a plan. Like, we could rename this the Have a Plan podcast.
We really should have.
Really, like, so have a plan. If you're gonna take both Galactic Legends on, or put both Galactic Legends on defense, have a strategy to be able to win. Don't just blindly do it. Like, I like to put both of them on, but when I'm faced with a weird comp, like in my first match, I kept Kylo for offense, as you have done. Like, you've switched off and on with your Galactic Legends this season. Like, for offense, like, make sure you have a way to beat the guy that you're facing. Right. And in this case, the guy has just leaned on, like, he was fine with just getting like not full clears. He's just like, no one can beat my Galactic Legends zone, and so I'm gonna win most of my matches. And this was just a match where I was like, well, who has the better off meta counters? And I can guarantee there's probably one between the two of us, between me and my random opponent. One of us has spent, way more hours, like dozens more hours, planning for double Galactic Legends and off meta counters. And that player is definitely not him. Like, I spent a ton more. So as it stood, he didn't even crack one of my legends. He didn't get to the back zone. And I full cleared him in a pretty nasty fashion. So I wasn't that efficient. I didn't get a ton of banners. But it was enough that, like, it was a very, I beat him by hundreds because he didn't clear two of my zones. But right. Yeah, it was, I think, the highlight of that match, beyond cracking double Galactic Legends with off meta counters. I think my favorite thing, which was scary also, I used my CLS Chupio squad to kill his really strong Night Sisters, and it felt pretty close. I did win, but that was it's pretty gross. So that was my match. I think you stole the show on this one, though. This was way more exciting. Your match was way more exciting on this. So tell us about your round two, because I loved this. Not to give spoilers, but this is my highlight of your week, so to speak.
So I went up against the same guy that I went up against 5 days earlier and beat me. So, little backstory about this guy. Both Klesso and I have fought him now this season. So we're now week 3. He has only finished coming into the fight, he had only scored less than 1926 banners twice. It was the first time he faced Klesso, and then the first time he faced me. And he beat me. I just was able to hold him to 1912 rather than 1926. Coming into the fight, he lost a total of 1 offensive battle this entire season. 1 offensive battle, and that was to Klesso's General Grievous squad. And so what this guy does, he's actually he doesn't plan much, but he's actually a very efficient and a very good player. What he does is he knows Darth Revan and Gas are awful for banners when used on offense. So rather than put Galactic Legends, he puts Darth Revan and Gas in the front bottom. And then he has a Grievous team up top, and he has a Newt team in the back. Or not a Newt, a Nest team in the back. And that's his defense. Puts the same defense down every single time. And I spent... It had to be like 2 hours Saturday night into Sunday morning, trying to find a way to put a Galactic Legend down to make him face it, because Galactic Legends versus Galactic Legends steals a ton of banners, and that was my goal. I was going to out-efficiency him. And my second goal was he relied on using his Jedi Training Ray team on offense. Like, he needed to use Jedi Training Ray on offense to win the way that he wants to do. So I was like, man, I need to put a KRU team with Hux down because even if he uses Jedi Training Ray, that's always an awful banner win. And so again, I'll win on efficiency. And then I got so sick of trying to figure out this puzzle that I was like, you know what? Screw it. I'm just going to do what he does. So I put Darth Revan and Gas in the front bottom zone. I ended up not putting my KRU team. I ended up putting Geos up top because you can't use Jedi Training Ray on Geos. And I said, okay, I'm going to, let's do it this way. And then about 20 minutes before, we're supposed to start attacking, find out he starts attacking, and he failed on my Darth Revan. So take that. And I was able to undersize his Darth Revan because I had Supreme Leader Kylo. I took his gas on with my Rey, and while they do steal banners, you're not going to lose that match. And then I was able to easily clear the rest of his board. And so I gave him his second offensive battle loss. I gave him his third time under 1926 banners, and I got the revenge from the previous Sunday, and I took the win. And, you just said it, you need a plan. And the only reason I got that win is because I spent so much time trying to figure out how to counter his defenses. And honestly, I still believe this, the only way to do it was to take both Galactic Legends on offense. Because there was just no other way to use Gas or Darth Revan to counter either Gas or Darth Revan and get decent banners. I could not figure out a way. And so I was able to pull it off and stick it to him and reach the finals.
Yes, sir. That was pretty awesome, man. I love the revenge aspect of it.
Yeah.
Because he beat you so recently. I thought it was the height of arrogance as well for him to just place the exact same defense against a good player. Like, he's like, oh, well, I beat this guy before. I'm going to place the exact same thing I placed last time.
Well,
like a week later. Crazy.
Yeah, you know what's funny about it? So the funny part about it is he actually placed the defense early on in the round. Like, he didn't let it auto set because I compared the banners from, when I did the comparison and then at the beginning of the week to the banners he had, and there was a 730 banner difference. So he actually set the defense, and that actually honestly worried me. So it's like, oh god, he set this defense. He didn't just let it auto deploy at this point. So it's like, did he actually change his defense up despite despite him never changing it before? And thankfully the answer was no. He must just not trust the auto deploy. And so he fell for it.
Yeah, I loved it, man. It was good planning.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Okay, so now let's talk about yours, because your third fight, the championship for you, was probably the highlight of the week between both of us. Honestly, it was so enthralling to watch. Like, I was planning on doing something and just having you on the side, and I'd watch and then do something else at the same time because I needed to relax after my match. And I honestly couldn't peel my eyes off the screen. So let's start talking about your match. And I actually have the front zone pulled up for everybody to see the defenses that you faced in that match.
Oh man, this was a crazy one, Solo. Thanks. This guy, I faced him before. We both faced him. He's a very good player. He's on Team Instinct. He's We both faced him in 3v3, but I kind of got lucky and beat him when we matched. But he was telling me I got lucky, and I actually I don't remember exactly, but I remember having the emotion of like, yeah, I think I did get a little lucky. And then he faced Solo, and he beat you too, Solo, and like
Yeah.
you know, I you're a great player, and the fact that I got lucky to beat him, and then he went and beat you, um, like he's a legit opponent. And so he messaged me halfway through our first match. He's like, hey, how'd you do in your round? Are we gonna meet in the finals? What are we gonna do? So he knew, he recognized me. He knew, to watch my stuff, all of this stuff. And so going into the finals, I did my research on him, as I always do. And he always places the same boring stuff. Like, he's an efficiency player. He's really good at this stuff. Like, he's got amazing mods. That's the third fastest Darth Revan in the game at 351. Like, 9 faster than mine. And mine is pretty quick. So crazy fast, like just amazing mods all the way throughout. And he always places the really boring defense of only Darth Revan and like a pretty vanilla Rey team, and then everything else is just kind of cheese, whatever. And so I was like, I'm sure he's going to change some stuff. So I kept my Darth Revan. I put Chupio in there instead, in his place. And I was like, also pretty sure like he might do something weird. So I put both Galactic Legends in my front zone. When the match came out, he messaged me. He's like, "Oh, you changed your defenses too." And I was like, "Well, yeah, I figured because of our because of our history. You're talking about you want revenge and you're excited to have the chance to beat me again. Like, I needed to change some stuff up as is only prudent." And I was like, and I figured you'd change yours up too. And he was like, he was like, no, I'd only changed things because of my research. My research dictated this change. And I'm like, he's never, ever, ever done this. So the fact that he's like dramatic, so this is dramatically different. If you do look at the screen, if you're watching live, if you're not, so what he did, he put both Galactic Legends down, which he's never done. The Rey team had Rey, General Skywalker, Rex, Chewie, and Fives, which is a perversely difficult composition to beat because Rex is guarded, so you can't stun him. It's a nightmare. And then he had Supreme Leader Kylo down with Hux and Darth Revan, and then Old Daka and Zombie. So like using like 4 or 5 teams to make these two, but they are really tough to beat. And so what I ended up, I had both Galactic Legends down on defense. He had both of his. He was clearly planning on just ignoring my Galactic Legend zone. Like, it was pretty obvious to me. Like, there's nothing he had that could beat both Galactic Legends, unless he had a weird new comp that I'd never heard of. In which case, I was excited to learn it. So,
Yeah.
anyways, I don't want to go on at too great of length, but what ended up happening, I used a Darth Vader comp. You guys can watch the video of it. It'll come out in a few days. Used a Darth Vader comp to beat his Kylo, because once you get weapons tech on Vader, you can just, like, as long as you can make sure you have the mechanics right to go before Darth Revan, you only need a couple debuffs on Darth Revan in order to one-shot him. And then he's unrevivable. So even if Daka gets a turn, she can't get lucky and revive because it's the weapons tech. Did the same to Daka, and she couldn't revive from Zombie helping her revive. And then I was able to just eventually get one shot kill on Kylo. So got the kill there. And then I used my Luke Nukem team, which is like Jedi Revan and Jedi Luke and General Skywalker, all 3 on the same team. Which is expensive as hell, but his team is expensive too. But they were able to beat the Rey team. So got the one shot on his double Galactic Legends. The fun didn't stop there. The back zone was easy. It had Ewoks and like a random like scoundrel team. It was like Gear 12. So that was nice. But then up top, he also had a General Grievous squad, a Newt squad with both Malak and Dark Bastila, and then his Jedi training Rey with really, really fast hero bros, but I was able to use Shock T to take out the Hero Bro Ray team. I used my Darth Revan without Malak because Malak was on defense. I used Darth Revan to take out his Newt team. And then I used 7 teams to slowly drag the General Grievous team to death. So it did look kind of ugly, but I got the clear and it felt really damn good. And then he just messaged me and said, good game. So that felt nice too. It was an incredibly, I think it took me almost 2 hours to play it. And I couldn't believe how many people stuck around for it, but
man, it did. It was about an hour and 45 minutes. And the funny part is like you finish it and it's like, oh my god, he just did that, and then you're like, oh, let's go to my ult now.
All right, guys, good match. Yeah. Let's go kill some stuff on my ult. Everyone's like, peace out.
Oh, but that was a truly impressive. I mean, that front bottom zone was just absurd. And he got exactly what he deserved. That's, at the end of the day, he got what he deserved.
Well, yeah, I mean, we talk about having a plan, and we also talk about don't be a dick. Like, and people are like, dude, you're just kind of a dick putting all these crazy teams on defense. The fact is, though, I have a plan to clear. Like, clearly, I beat this heinous, crazy defense, and I didn't have my own Galactic Legends. I had a ton of good teams on defense. And so I don't know. I don't know what to say. Like, I had a plan. He didn't. He just wanted to, his whole plan was to ignore the bottom zone and just clear the top and win by efficiency.
Right.
And so I'm glad I did that to him too. Frustrating guy to play against.
Xerath's plan, be a dick. Though, here's the thing, because this kind of ties into what we're talking about earlier, is at our GP level, the defenses we can place are absurd. But that's because we have so many teams to place. Like, you and I used to talk about when you're placing your defenses, it's a question of how many meta teams you place on defense. And by meta, we didn't mean what's the arena meta. It was, like Grievous was one, and CLS was one, and Darth Revan and Jedi Knight Revan. And so you and I are both putting 5 meta teams on defense, but if you look at the teams that we're attacking with, I have 4 to 5 attacking teams as well. So it's not that we're being dicks, it's just that there's only 7 teams that you place on defense. I don't need to keep 9 meta teams for offense when you only need 7 attacks. But
right. Well, and that's the thing. I think so. We're still gonna have 4 Galactic Legends. We'll face people with 4 Galactic Legends, and we'll still get those guys who place Old Republic.
Right. That's my opponent. Actually, this is a good transition into my final match. So my opponent for my final match is very predictable. In fact, I predicted every team that he placed before I had the plan before the round even started. And here's the thing. He had a good roster. He was only 5,000 lifetime banners behind me. When you look at his stats, he actually has about 35 defends more than me in lifetime stats. And then, so, all he does, though, is he put double Galactic Legends on defense, and then he had Geos, a Bounty Hunter team, a Mon Mothma team, but it wasn't a Relic Mon Mothma team, it was a Gear 11 and 12 Mon Mothma team, and then he had a Stormtrooper Han Scoundrel team that was what? Han, CHS, Mission Zalbar, Nest. And it's like, those defenses, other than the double Galactic Legends, just aren't scary. So I went into this challenge, and I put my Ray on defense because he places double Galactic Legends. I saw he has he uses Vader to counter Ray. He has a problem when Zaris is on the Ray team using the Vader counter. So of course I put Zaris on the Ray team using so he couldn't use the Vader counter. I put Darth Revan, General Grievous, CLS, Padme on defense because I just don't need them. And then I used teams like Troopers on his bounty hunters and for 60 banners, and it's like, you didn't need to keep everything you did for offense. And then he still lost to my Ray because he had no contingency plan to counter my Ray with anything other than his Vader, and he struggled 3 other times coming into this match, beating a team with Zaris. It's like, all you have to do is look at the GAC history and say, oh, he can't beat this team. Let me place it on D. And I basically got the win just by placing that one team. And I had a plan to beat his Galactic Legends, which was I used Supreme Leader Kylo on his Ray, and I used the Jedi Knight Revan, Jedi Knight Luke counter on his Supreme Leader Kylo. And the second I beat his Supreme Leader Kylo, because I did that fight first, even though it was in the top zone, I knew I was going to win because there was nothing else he could that he would have on defense that could stop me. And so I finished the week at 3-0. You and I are both sitting at 8-1 now, going into the final week. And God, I wish it was 9-0. It should have been 9-0. I should have done better. But 8-1 is not a bad spot to be going into the final week.
No, it's really not. The guys we're matched up against in GA Center also had a great week. So it looks like we just treaded water. I think we're getting pretty tough matchups though. So
we are. Actually, Endall lost. Endall's on vacation, so that's why he probably lost. I haven't watched.
I thought he posted that he won all 3.
Or no, it was last week that he lost. So not this week. It was last week he lost. And so he and I were tied, and now I'm sitting second by 1 win. And actually, you caught up to him.
Okay.
But, well, you didn't catch up to him, but you gained ground on him.
Okay. I'm good with it. I've made my peace with GA Center. The people I'm matched up again, it's very similar to the GA leaderboard, honestly. The tier, like, no offense to those guys. Some of their matchups, I'm like, wow, I wish I could do the same. Wish I could have the same. At the same time, I'm glad like my streams are way more interesting if I'm facing obnoxious teams.
Let's be honest, our streams would be boring if every week we were facing a Karth team.
They would be. Like, there's a fun in the novelty of using Kylo Ren, the OG Kylo Ren to solo Old Republic for 64, but that I wouldn't want to tune into that every week.
Yeah. Though I do hope my opponents place R7 Jawas at some point to solo with Kylo Ren just once. I want to do it. Just once. All right, so that was our week. That brings us into the next section, which is our podcast questions. We got 2 podcast questions today. And no, Phoenix, no. So, guys, if you want to submit podcast questions, we have a Discord server. It's in the description of the podcast below. Or it's in the description of any of our YouTube videos, etc. Gar Saxon. Oh, I hope to run up against him too. But you can submit your podcast questions in our Discord server. There's a channel dedicated to podcast questions. So, I struggled last week clearing Phoenix. Any tips? Don't use a Han Solo, Ando. How's How's that for a tip? Uh,
So there's also a thing. So just real quick, let me interject this. So me and Ando have talked about this actually just recently as well. So he wanted to try, like he was in this really easy match where the guy just placed a bunch of weird teams, and so he's like, I have some room to be able to like explore other counters and whatever. So he tried, after he tried his Han Solo against Phoenix, he also he threw in his Wampa solo against it, because people like have this mentality of like, oh man, you gotta, if you see Phoenix, it's the easiest thing, guys.
yeah.
Just throw Wampa in there and you win. Like, doesn't matter what the gear levels, doesn't matter anything. Wampa, hardest counter in the game. He just
Yeah.
tears Phoenix apart. And what Endo demonstrated was that is false.
That is blatantly false.
It's so false. Like, the thing is, Zeb he lands his days, and then it's over. It's just over. Like, yes, Wampa does double damage against rebels. That's great. There are ways you can set up your Wampa to be able to do that as a solo, and there are instances where it does work. But as a blanket counter to Phoenix, Wampa is not the answer. He's not the one and true. He's not the savior of mankind coming down to slay Phoenix. Like, that's not what he does. He gets dazed, and then he gets stunned, and then he dies.
Right. Yes.
So
yeah.
Anyways, just throwing it out there, guys. Yes, Wampa can be modded so that he can beat Phoenix. Yes, a lot of people who threw Phoenix in there don't have Zeb modded for potency, which is a mistake, but they don't have it modded for potency, and therefore you can evade some of those dazes and those stuns. But otherwise, like, don't just go in with the plan. Don't just assume.
Yes.
So
okay. All right. So the podcast questions.
yes.
The most stale part of the game right now is Territory Wars, which hasn't changed in probably 2.5 years, literally since it was released. What could be done to actually make it less stale?
So I don't know. I was thinking about this. You remember how those stupid missions that made random characters like really awful, or really really awful characters into really good characters?
Yes.
I was thinking, like, I wonder if that would make things more interesting now, because I hate Territory Wars. I would almost try that again. I kind of think then you can't take it seriously. Really, I don't know.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it might spice it up. I also think that, well, I don't know. Like, my ideas for Territory War would be more like, I like the idea of having, a different map available. I just think the strategy right now is so established, and there's no variation. Like, you have to clear through the middle and see all the zones. So then you have 3 zones that you have full sight on, and you haven't had to touch yet, and then you make the rest of your decisions after you've cleared the other 3 or 5, I forget. Like, that's you have your route, so to speak, your clearing route, and beyond that, like, there's no strategy really. Like, people are just putting more and more perversely difficult teams on defense. We just faced Moth last weekend or week or whatever, and they placed all 100 Galactic Legends on defense. Like, that is so boring, and there's no recourse to that. We'd have to do something along those lines.
Yeah.
I don't know, or make it more personal. Make it more like I don't know. It would be cool to have an aspect of like your Territory War leader can assign like a smaller, like a fire team, like of 5 guys to go take like a side objective or something. You just send them in. You have no idea what to expect, and then those 5 guys are in there, and they have to clear a zone on their own or something. Like, something like that. I think right now you just get lost in the process of the grind. It's boring. I'd like something more personal about it. What about you, Solo? What ideas do you have?
So two things. Well, actually three things. Because I'm gonna steal one of yours in changing the map, or just have the map switch up. Like that would be huge. If sometimes it was the current shape, sometimes it's in the shape of a diamond where you have to attack the front zone, then it opens up to two, then it opens up to three, then two, then one. I think that would be really interesting and be a different strategy. Like just change. Don't make it the same thing every single territory works. Like you said, that has been established for um, since territory wars started, basically. Uh, the number one thing I was going to say, though, is fix the goddamn matchmaking. You know, right now, we are on a streak of 3 guilds that we faced that are at least 20 million more GP than us and have at least 15 more Galactic Legends than us. Um, and I'll be honest with you, the second I see the matchup, I say, I don't care about this anymore. Like, it's not going to be a good fight. All they're going to do is stick all 15 GLs on defense. Every one of them is going to put Ray with Malik. And the territory war is going to be over. Like, that's what's going to happen. That's what did happen. And then they call themselves territory war guilds, even though they really didn't put any strategy into it. So fix the matchmaking so that a 330 million guild doesn't match up with a 305 million guild. And I will shout from the rooftop that there's two different types of sandbagging. There is the intentional type where you tell people that don't have Galactic Legends yet to sit out because they're going to hurt the guild. That's BS. Then there's the other type where my old alt guild, which was a casual guild that didn't admit that they're a casual guild, that despite multiple reminders to sign up, would only have 44 to 45 people sign up. Not for lack of trying from the officers, just a lack of caring for the player base, basically. Except for no matter the reason for the sandbagging, whether intentional or just being casual, you still end up with the same advantage. And my old guild, or my alt's old guild, they didn't want to have the advantage. In fact, every once in a while on a territory war server, you match up with the people and you find them, and literally it would be like, I'm so sorry, like, I know this is how this is going to go. We reminded our members 6 times and they just didn't sign up. Like, sorry. But so fixing the matchmaking would be the second way I would make territory wars more interesting. The third is going to steal an idea from Grand Arena, and it would be to, rather than have the leaderboard set up just by the GP of the guild that you beat, because that's easily manipulated. It would be like Grand Arena where you earn banners for your fights, and there are certain feats, and if I was CG, I would make one of the feats be attack with Galactic Legends, so that when we have 4 Galactic Legends, the defenses aren't just 200 Galactic Legends on the board. Make it, you need to get, 5 kills with a Galactic Legend or something. Make these teams actually come up with a strategy that isn't, I'm just going to throw every Galactic Legend on defense, because it's just miserable. Like, it's not fun to play like that. And when there's 100 more Galactic Legends, it's going to be double as boring. So I would say 100% switch it to a Grand Arena style banner system, and make the feats include attacking with Galactic Legends, because I'm over. Like, the second Galactic Legends hit the Territory War board, I stopped caring completely about Territory Wars, because it's no longer about strategy. It's 100% about who either has more Galactic Legends that they can place Malik in to mess you up, or how many people got Jedi Knight Luke to counter the Supreme Leader Kylos that the other team put on the defense.
Right. Right now, it's like who can just bring the most, who could bring the most Galactic Legends. That's the start and end of it. And that's boring AF.
Yes. Stress on the AF.
Indeed.
Okay. So we're going from CG's biggest mistake in the game. Well, maybe it's not their biggest mistake. There's been a few. But to personal. So the second podcast question is, what is your own worst mistake in SWGOH history, and what's the worst you've seen others make?
Gosh. So for me, I don't know that I've made an incredibly egregious mistake. Like, there is certainly some stupid things I've done in Grand Arena that were like, in hindsight, I'm like, wow, I could have won that easily if I had just like been smarter about things. I honestly, I'm not sure. Like, so here's a regret. Let's just say this. I've always wanted to make content, and I've always wanted to create content. And me and Ando were talking about this the other day, actually. I regret that I didn't start making content earlier, because if I had gotten into like the Game Changers program, I could be I could be a bigger name right now, frankly. Like,
yeah.
And that's ultimately, I know that people don't like it when you're like, yeah, I'm just trying to get the clicks and whatever. And truly, like, I care about creating solid content. If you watch my stuff, like, none of it's fluff. I don't just create spinny, because like nothing on Cubs. He has his own following, his own crowd and stuff, so I'm not just targeting him to slam him. I just, that's fluff, though. To me, that's not interesting. That's not something I'm going to watch, and I don't want to subject the people who want to watch my stuff to it. I don't want to, but so I want to make good content. I do, like, if I'm going to make content, though, I want people to pay attention to it. And
right.
If I had started with Game Changers early on, like, if I'd been able to get in on that, I'd have thousands more subs right now on my YouTube channel. And our podcast would be way bigger. But, I wouldn't say that's a mistake, though. In terms of mistakes, maybe my biggest mistake is starting this third account. It's killing me.
That's completely fair.
So we can talk about other people's mistakes. What about you, Solo? What's your biggest mistake in the game?
I actually spent a lot of time thinking about this. The 100% my biggest mistake was, so when our Alliance recruiter, about 2 years ago, he stepped away from the Alliance. Basically, recruiting burnt him out. And so at the time, I was the leader of our guild, and, you were an officer in our guild. And I didn't really care about the rest of the Alliance, but I wanted to see our guild succeed, and nobody was recruiting, and we had spots to fill, so I would step in and do the recruiting for our guild, but then I would find people and pass them off to other people, and I basically became the recruiter for our entire Alliance, and I did that for 2 years, and at the end, it made me miserable. Like, it's so much work, and I would beg people to help me. I would beg other guilds to help me, and they would always find somebody to help you, and then the person would make one post, and then they just stop helping you. Like, our current recruiter in our guild right now, even though we have 4 spots open, hasn't sent out a message in about 2 weeks, and we're just sitting there, leaving Bodhi to recruit and run TB and run the guild, and I mean, he's going to burn out soon, because nobody wants to recruit. So my biggest regret is I got into recruiting for our Alliance, and I stuck with it for 2 years until literally I just could not do anymore. And the only reason our guild disbanded was basically because I was so burnt out from recruiting that I just didn't feel like filling the holes I couldn't keep up with filling the holes that were opening. Not because I didn't want to, but it was just, I don't want to do this anymore. So that would fall under probably my biggest mistake in the game.
Yeah, man, I that's a huge regret. I loved 50 DME, our original guild, where we,
Yeah.
you and I met and we kind of ran the guild together, so to speak. With others' help, of course, but like, I wish we had found a way to keep that going because you and I were both so burned out. Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
and it, like we were the carry for the guild, kind of. Like there was a lot of people who were like, ah, it's okay, we're gonna win our war because Solo and Zareth are scoring like over 300 banners per war, like
Right.
insane output required for these people who aren't even actually attacking, and it like we couldn't recruit because you were burned out, and it's just so hard to recruit, and we were just done. We had to be done. The guild needed to fold. I wish we had been able to keep it going though, because that was something special. I still get messages from people saying they wish they miss 50 DME. Like,
Yeah. And for those of you that don't know, our guild in our alliance was always considered the baby guild, I guess you could say. We were always 20 million GP behind our top two guilds. And yet, when you looked at the territory war leaderboards, there were 3 months in a row that we finished top 35. So, I mean,
right.
It was 3 months in a row. It's not even just 3 months. It was 3 months in a row where we were finishing top 25. It was, yeah.
And that was honestly because of the intense work by a few people, like you and me and a few other people. Like we coordinated and made it work. Like we had the right strategy. I think our biggest streak we went on, it was like almost 20. It was like 17 wins in a row or something.
Yeah.
And there are guilds who have better streaks than us. I'm not saying we were the transcendent guild, but that's pretty damn good, frankly.
Right. For a guild that was not in the top 100 in GP. I think we weren't even in the top 150, and we were finishing top 30 in the territory war leaderboard. It was. I'm still very happy to brag about what we did in that guild. Our GA results, like I feel good about it. I'm thrilled I'm 8-1. I'm thrilled that I have a total of 5 losses since the beginning of June in Grand Arena. I still feel like our accomplishments in territory war with DME were better than what I've done with how I've played this past summer. Like,
well, yeah, dude, that was good, and we're always gonna remember that, and we're probably gonna end up saying that we were one of the best guilds in the game eventually, because that's how these things go.
Right.
but you're right. Like it was something special, and people loved that guild, and I hated that we had to break it up, but we had just reached the point. I was like, after we go in on that long win streak, like we lost one really close, and then there was something that just snapped in me. I was just like, I'm done. I am done. I can't do it anymore. And our results showed it. We lost a bunch. Because if everything is leaning on one or two people to do it, when that one person quits, then the whole thing just goes to hell. And, I mean, I can't really blame myself for being burned out. That's just a state, that's the state of affairs. That's how it was. I do regret that we couldn't keep it going, though. So,
agreed.
Anyways, we should probably move on to more interesting things, such as, what's the worst mistake you've seen other people make? And don't say gearing Droidica for the.
Tell you the worst mistake I've seen people making today. How's that? So, the worst mistake I've seen others make is just ignoring mods. There are people out there, and they're like, man, I don't think I can win Grand Arena with my roster. And I look at their roster, and I'm like, no, man, you've got all the teams you need. And then you do the mod analysis of them, and it's like they have 50 mods of 15 plus, and they have a 6 million GP, and it's like, oh, it's not your roster that's the problem. It's that you literally didn't farm mods. What were you doing? So I think I think that answers the easiest one of any podcast question we've ever had. It's they ignore mods.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. And so I was actually going to say that. I'll just continue on with it a little bit. I think another big thing is people putting too many relics on their roster, like not paying attention, just blithely disregarding matchup GP and then expecting to win. Like I see all these, like some of these like younger Kraken accounts where people have, like 60 relic 7s or something. Maybe that's extreme, but like a ton of relic 7s, and then they have like 80 Zetas or less. Like right. They don't have enough for their key characters for that GP level. And they haven't even been around long enough to have a 7-star General Skywalker and Malak. Like, they're that young of an account, and I see people putting all these relics on, and then they get paired up with people who are way deeper roster wise, and it's just like, well, that's what you get. I mean, like, I don't blame you for wanting to buy like a good account or whatever to spend money on relics. That I would love to have more relic 7s if I could make sure I had a good balanced roster behind it.
Right.
For the most part, though, you don't need relic 7s. You need relic 5s some places. You need some relic 7s. I don't regret relic 7 Nest at all, for instance. A couple others, but like on my alt, I run across these guys who are super top heavy, and they're like Darth Revan, relic 7, Jedi Revan, relic 7. And I'm like, my highest relic is relic 3. Like the guys I'm facing have higher relics than my main account does on those characters.
Right.
And I just think the just total disregard of GA matchmaking. I guess if you don't care about Grand Arena, that's one thing, but like just in terms of Grand Arena, like you can legitimately mess yourself up for a very long time. I have a couple patrons who went the top heavy route, and I don't blame them because you have to do arena, and arena does necessitate a little higher relic levels sometimes. But like our goal, like the way I'm trying to help steer them, trying to work together with them, is like all your characters from now on are relic 0 until. I mean, I'm not like I'm not just like this authoritarian, like you clear everything through me before you make a move, but like the general strategy is relic 0 until it's determined that relic 2 or relic 5 is the step you want to take. So those are the 2 next most efficient steps in terms of GP gain on relics. And like a couple of them have slowly been getting more consistently good results. So, that's just something to throw out there. Like keep your relic levels low, and you're going to get easier matchups.
Right.
If you do it too crazy, you'll get to my alt, who then you just get too easy matchups. But
well,
anyways.
You and I both, through our Patreons, do coaching for Grand Arena, and so I have one guy that I help, and he's the type of person that always wants the hot new thing. And so, he sends a message. He's like, what do you think about an R7 DACA? I'd be like, no, you don't need an R7 DACA. Yeah, but I'm struggling with the Grievous counter. Don't use Night Sisters to counter Grievous. Just don't. We use your Night Sisters to counter Geos. You don't need an R7 DACA. And then, all of a sudden, he shows up with an R7 DACA. And then he's like, I don't get why I keep getting matched up against these people that have so many relics. And it's like, because you just put R7 on DACA. Like, you just gave yourself the relics. What do you think is going to happen? Anyway.
Yeah, exactly.
It's yeah.
It's fun. The other big mistake that I've seen people make is having these really stupid names in game. That's led to me making fun of them ruthlessly.
Who names themselves Zareth? Oh, I mean,
Who steals the Twitch Zareth and then doesn't use it? That's what I want to know.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, or like Ando 90 for crying out loud. but yeah. Well, so let's talk about our high functioning alts solo.
Yes.
You have a pretty awesome alt that is called Liam Solo. And it's at what GP? I always forget. 6 million, something like that.
6.3, I think now. Yeah.
Dang. Yeah. So you and it's free to play now. It used to be a whale account. Who knows who spent money on it? It was probably you, because I'm sure it was your account the whole time.
Yes, of course. It was my account from day one.
Right. You used to whale on your alt, but not your main.
Right, exactly. So it used to be. It has been free to play. It's been mostly free to play for... God, I've had this account now for literally a year and a half, because I started really focusing on it in March of last year. And... So it's been free to play, except for a $20 gift card that I got that helped me get gas the second time around. So mostly free to play. But I struggled when I got my first Galactic Legend, because I got the Galactic Legend and I didn't have enough to counter other Galactic Legends. I've changed that now. And now I actually have Jedi Knight Luke. He's only at gear 9, because trying to gear Jedi Knight Luke up free to play it's not an easy thing. But so I am currently sitting at 8-1 on my alt. This week I actually had a couple of really interesting fights this week on my alt. The one thing I will say is, and the best thing I do on this alt, is I keep Rey for offense. I don't lose to their Galactic Legends, because everybody that I face leaves Rey on defense. So I go in with my Rey. I easily clear it. I place my Darth Revan on defense, and my alt does not have the mods that my main account does. So my Darth Revan is not, Speedy Gonzalez or anything. But Darth Revan in a mirror match, or even facing gas, doesn't matter. As long as Malik is there, he's going to steal banners. And so I just rely on Darth Revan stealing banners while I beat their Galactic Legend. I've gotten the Rey vs. Rey countered down really well with using Watt as my 4th and using Haldo as my 5th to go along with the Resistance Bros, to the point where I'm getting like 54 banners now in that counter, and I'm usually able to keep most of them alive. You lose Watt at the first ultimate, like you just don't have a choice, because he's not protected by your ultimate. But I've gotten that down really well. So I was able to do that every match this week. The one problem I had in the second round, I went up against another Rey, and it was a Rey that had Hoda as the 5th. And, of course, in this one fight is when the Rey ultimate bug would show up with my opponent. And so, his Rey entered ultimate, my Rey entered ultimate, his Rey didn't come out of ultimate, my Rey came out of ultimate, then his Rey came out of ultimate and killed me. And I do on my alt what I do on my main, and that's place a very heavy defense. And so I just had nothing that could kill his Rey. So I was only able to clear the top zones, plus the one fight on the bottom. And then my opponent just never attacked. So, sometimes it's better to be lucky than good. So on my alt, I'm 3-0 because I got lucky.
That is useful.
But I would also argue it was also bad luck that the ultimate bug. So I should have cleared his Ray without a problem. In fact, it was just his Ray and Hoda, and I still had 4 members of my team um, when that all happened. But either way, I ended up getting the win. I finished the week at 3-0. The other 2 fights were honestly nothing to write home about. There were no interesting team comps or anything. Uh, I did gear up Piet on my alt as well as my main account, so I'm using Troopers more again on my alt account, so that's fun at the very least. Uh, what about you? How did your alt go this week?
Um, it went about as expected, I guess. I don't know. That sounds cocky. Okay, so here's the thing. My alt is on a. So I went 3-0. My alt is on a currently 68 win streak, I believe. I've won 68 in a row, which is crazy. Maybe it's 67. I've lost count. I have it recorded somewhere. My alt's done really well, though. So you guys, like week by week, I've just added 3 to that for months now at this point. And it's because I've controlled my relic levels to the point where I get these matchups against people who don't know what they're doing. And so this week was it was a scary week for me for that win streak because 2 of my opponents actually had Relic Malak and Relic General Skywalker. Like they had both of those, and that's almost before this week I've only faced 1 person with General Skywalker. I've had him for a while, but no one else does, and so 2 of my opponents had them. However, they always keep their General Skywalkers on offense. At one of them kept their Darth Revan on defense. I had to 3-shot it. I used the Jawa Gambit, and then my poor General Grievous got just mangled for no reason. I think I killed a couple characters, but then my General Skywalker could clean it up. My Skywalker 501st really needs some gear really bad. Maybe I should stop farming characters and farm some gear for them. But
Touche.
But then he tripped up on my fleet because I have a good fleet. He tripped up on my Ewoks because I have good Ewoks. Everyone, it's like the thing lately. Like if you face Zareth or Zareth's alt, you fail on his Ewoks in the back zone. That's the thing. So all 3 matches. My first one was by far the scariest. It was a guy who had at least 1 undefeated season. He still failed on Ewoks. The second one was a laugher. I'm probably not even going to post it. I'll do like a really brief recap on my YouTube channel. And then the third one, the guy failed so much. He kept so much for offense, like all the things on offense. And I just like bludgeoned his defense, and he couldn't even clear me. And I don't have wonderful defense. It's just, here's the advantage of having my alt, honestly. So I'm facing these people who this is probably their main account, and it's their primary thing, and a lot of them are pretty casual because of the way I've managed my relics in a pretty non-casual way, like a very specific, regimented way. Authoritarian, one might say. But I'm facing these guys who don't have as much experience, so I'm really good at determining what teams beat what. Like I'm good at counters. I mean, not as a bragging point, just as like a statement of, like I've done this a ton. I have a ton of experience. And so I place these teams that'll just trip people up, and I have really good mods on that account. Actually, every once in a while, we'll try to get a recruit for our guild, the Solo and I share, and every once in a while, I'll just mod shame the person. It's like, wow, they have like a 6 point something million account, but they have worse mods than my alt, who's at 3.8.
Yeah.
So, like, really good mods, and I have a lot of tricky game mechanics that people don't necessarily understand, and so that combination is really tough to deal with for a lot of players. So I've had a lot of success, and if I can get to 100 wins, maybe I'll just retire the account. I don't know.
Yeah.
As it stands, 67 is pretty good. I'm happy enough with it. 68, whatever it is.
Yeah.
And I'm nowhere approaching having any Galactic Legends. And I'm nowhere. The thing is, if you control your relics this way, I'm also nowhere approaching actually facing off against a Galactic Legend. So
That's true. Yeah.
yeah. Anyways, that's my alt. 3-0, 68-0, however you want to look at it. And that leads us to our last segment,
It does.
and that is what have we done to prepare for Grand Arena? Like, what roster changes have we made? Because this is a collection game, and what's the point of not advancing our roster? And really, you can find a lot of advantage in advancing your roster in the right areas. So, Solo, what things have you done?
This week was mostly quiet for me. So now that we're on the Chupio and very shortly the Mon Mothma shard grinds, I have just gotten all the gear to get them to G12 as soon as they hit 7 stars. So, the little yellow crosses are now appearing on both of them. I've also, so between the two of them, they require 200 furnaces. I just between both of them, so I'm up to 186 farmed right now, I think. So in the next day or two, I should have enough furnaces to apply to them when they hit G12. So that's basically been all my energy this week. It's not very exciting this week, but the second I get them to 7 stars, it will be exciting because I'll be able to apply gear immediately. So
Nice.
it not a lot of change right now, but it's coming. What about you? What did you work on this week?
Pretty slow week for me as well. I'm just hoarding gear. I'm waiting to see which Galactic Legend I'm going for. Simple as that. I mean, I do have the Relic 5 Chupio that I talked about last week. It seems like that almost preordains me to go for Grump Face Luke first. It, like, whatever. We didn't even talk about the news about what CG has said about what like they released like a couple small tidbits. I hate the word tidbit for some reason. They released a couple pieces of information about what the new kits are going to be like, and apparently Grump Face Luke is what we predicted, basically. Like, he's just going to train people, he's going to protect people, and quote unquote can dish it out on offense too. Is my guess is that he'll be about as effective as Rey on offense. It doesn't sound super interesting. Sith Eternal Palpatine probably going to be more interesting to me. That being said, I have way more requirements for Luke. And all of that said, I'm
Oh,
hoarding all the
hold
things.
on 1 second. You can keep talking. I will be right back very quickly.
Okay.
Oh God.
So yeah, it sounds like a dog issue potentially. Barking at this time of night. How dare they? But yeah, so that said, I got my Mandalorian and my Grief. Their farms are done now, though I'm still farming the Grief node. I got them 7 star, and I couldn't help it. I had enough gear that I could just upgrade them to gear 12, and I did. I spent the gear to go from a gear 11 plus 3 or whatever each of them were. All of their yellow crosses turned to green, and got them to gear 12 because they are really cool characters, and I want to be able to use them. Gear 11 isn't enough, so Gear 12 is barely enough from where I'm at. I would love to get him with Gear 13. We'll wait for that for requirements. Unfortunately, they're going to have to take a backseat to, like, Royal Guard, but
Yeah. Yep.
that's what I did. I got my two guys up to gear 12, so I can use them more. I can put 6E mods on them so they can be a little more competent. Grief actually loves that bump from gear 11 to 12. His protection goes way higher. So that's it for me.
Yeah. Yeah. And
Otherwise, just hoarding gear, waiting.
So, fun story. The reason I had to get up is because my idiot dog was barking out the sliding glass doors because there's a bear sitting in my yard right now. And
A bear.
yeah, just sitting out there. Um, and while I don't care about the
Picture.
what,
Did you take a picture?
well, it's pitch black out there. It shined a flashlight, and it's like, oh crap, there's a bear. That's what he's barking at. So
At least we're ending on some excitement.
yes, exactly. The dog is certainly excited. But as you said, uh, it is a black bear. It is time to wrap up the podcast. Even though I'm talking last, I won't put you through the how to find us. So
Better anyways. I
so-
just cut corners.
I'm about to cut a ton of corners as well. So here's the deal, guys. We're on Twitch now with this podcast. Obviously, you can find us on Twitch. There are 3 ways to find us. One, you can find this podcast by going on Twitch and searching Gambit Podcast, and we will come up. We are the only Gambit podcast. You can find my personal account, which I stream Grand Arena battles on Mondays and Wednesdays and Sundays. So it's basically fights 1 and 3 of Grand Arena. You just search for my name. It's SoloBase15, SOLOBASS15. Zareth, of course, as he mentioned earlier, somebody stole the name Zareth. So search on Twitch. It's Zareth_prevails. It's XAERETH is how you spell Zareth. And then prevails is PREVAILS. You will find him that way. He streams his Grand Arena battles basically right after mine. So we just kind of do a train. We both have YouTube pages. You can search mine. It's SOLOBASS15. You can search Zareth. He's the only Zareth on YouTube, so it's just XAERETH.
True.
I already mentioned how you can find our Discord. It's a good resource if you have questions for Grand Arena. We are a Grand Arena focused Discord server. There's a lot of people there to answer questions, not just Zareth or I. And then finally, and probably the most important resource we have, is the counter sheet. It is a Google document that will tell you the team that we faced, and it's going to tell you the full team. So if we face the Talzin lead, it's not just going to have a picture of Talzin. It'll say, Talzin, Asajj, Daka, Spirit, and Zombie. Then to the right of that, it will tell you the full team we beat that Talzin team with. And what makes our sheet much more useful than some of the others out there is directly next to that, there will be a time-stamped link that will bring you to the battles so you can see how to do the fight, how geared the characters were, what turns we used, etc., etc. And you will see how to actually do the counter rather than just seeing a picture of Talzin as the defense team, a picture of Veers as the offense team, and say, it's a hard counter. You will actually see how hard of a counter it is. And troopers, actually with Piet and the turn meter changes, are becoming a much stronger counter again. Because they were kind of going out of vogue for a little bit. But anyway, that is an aside that we do not need to get into right now. Zareth, before we end this, anything else to add?
I just have to laugh. You mentioned the counter sheet. Someone in the chat said, "Oh, they're making that permanent." Because I got a shout out from one of the prominent members of our community saying that the counter sheet that I'm using, that we've cultivated and worked hard on, is just a good temporary thing to use. And it's like, we've had it for a long time, and we, I maintain it pretty consistently. It's a very good resource. Lots of people have gotten a lot of use out of it, but he said temporary like 5 times. So
he did. It might have been more than 5 times.
It was just like, oh, you might want to use this, but I'm not actually going to show a close-up of it. I'm just going to show that a spreadsheet exists. I'm going to say that there's a few things that I don't like about it, and I'm going to say it's temporary. Here's your shout out. And I hope I pronounced your name right.
Right.
So it brought me joy. So I've renamed myself Zareth the Temporary.
All right. On that note, folks, it was thank you to everyone that joined us in the chat. It's always good to have a chat going on while this is going on. Oh, and chat's making me laugh as we end this. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. Truly do appreciate it. Always good to see you. Thank you to everyone that listens. Thank you for taking the time. And with that said, evil sucks.
Yeah, and don't be like my round 3 opponent.
Yes, don't be a dick. Thank you, guys. See you next week.
See ya.